Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com, and we are about to do a dogfight with the LG Phoenix and the Huawei Ascend 4G, both on AT&T. If you're on AT&T and you want a budget Android smartphone, you have a couple of options. Two of those are the Phoenix and the Impulse. So which one should you buy? They're about the same price in terms of specs and hardware, also about the same. So which one should you go for? That's what we're going to find out in this dogfight. Before we get on to that, I have to say a special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile. We thank them all the time because they send us free phones that we can add to our One Paw Bandit game, which is a game where you guys can win free phones. One of the great things about Best Buy Mobile is that they sell phones from every major US carrier, including some prepaid carriers. So if your contract is up and you're thinking about switching, then instead of having to go to several different retail stores, you can just go to Best Buy Mobile and compare all of the phones right there. So thanks Best Buy Mobile for being so awesome. Thank you guys for watching this video. It's a dogfight with the LG Phoenix and the Huawei Impulse 4G from AT&T. I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com. Let's go check it out. Okay, so on the left here we have the Huawei Impulse, and on the right is the LG Phoenix. And in a lot of ways, these phones are very similar. They're both, mid-range devices. They're both about the same price. Currently, they're $30 on contract from AT&T. So, same price. The specs are somewhat similar, but there's a couple of things that differentiate the two. Obviously, you can see that the Huawei has, or that the Impulse has a larger display, slightly larger, and the Impulse is also a 4G device, or at least it supports AT&T's HSPA Plus network. And there's a couple of other differences. So the question is, they're the same price. Are these features enough to make you get the Impulse over the Phoenix? That's the question. So we'll start off with hardware. I mentioned for one thing that the Impulse has a larger display. It has a 3.8-inch display compared to the Phoenix, which has a 3.2-inch display. Now that doesn't sound like a big difference there, 3.8 inches versus 3.2, but it actually is a big difference when you're actually using the devices. If you think 3.8 is really not that far off from 4 inches, and then 3.2 is really not that far off from 3 inches. So, it's kind of rounding up and then rounding down, but it does, it is a big difference when you're actually using the devices, not just in everyday use in terms of, looking at pictures or web browsing, but also whenever you're using the keyboard. So if I go to messaging here, and we'll take a look at the virtual keyboard and then go to messaging on the Phoenix, the keyboard is a lot smaller on the Phoenix. Even for me in my small hands, I can tell that it's just a little more cramped. Now obviously I can still type, and it's not a problem. I had one error there right at the end. So, obviously I can still type. It's not a huge deal, but if you have larger hands, definitely go with the Impulse. And just, overall, a larger display means it's going to be a more comfortable typing experience. Now, you can use the Phoenix in landscape mode, and it'll be larger and still be comfortable. But just for typing, having that 3.8-inch display, it's definitely much better with the Impulse. Jumps over the lazy dog. So there we go. No mistakes, but I was just as likely to get no mistakes on the Phoenix. So personal preference, but obviously it's a no-brainer. Having a larger display is going to make typing a lot easier, and then just overall in general everyday use and web browsing, it's just a lot better to have a larger display. Now if we go back to this main display here, we'll talk a little bit about the OS, the UI. Obviously they're both Android devices. They both ship with Android 2.2. Neither one has been upgraded to 2.3 yet. I don't have any word on when they will or if they will. So both use Android 2.2, but you can see that the custom UI is different. In fact, the Impulse doesn't use a custom UI. So this is, on the Impulse, this is stock Android. This is what Android looks like with no manufacturer changes at all. So you can see at the bottom here, this dock has shortcuts for a phone, the app drawer, and then the web browser. You can't change these, but you can customize. For example, if you downloaded another web browser from the market, you can change the shortcut. You just can't change the icon or change it to another app. And then the notification bar, you can see it's just excuse me, sorry, I didn't even realize I had the phone out of the frame. In the notification bar, you can see there's no changes here, no toggle buttons. This is just plain Android. It does come with a few widgets. For example, this Wi-Fi hotspot widget that comes with the phone, because it can act as a Wi-Fi hotspot for up to 5 devices. But really, other than that, it's stock Android. These are widgets that I've downloaded, but the rest of these are widgets that you'll get with any Android device. The only other difference besides Wi-Fi hotspot is this My FM. It's a widget for an FM radio that is unique to the Impulse. I've seen it on one other device that was on T-Mobile, so that's kind of different. So, but mostly, you know, it's just stock Android. And then we go to messaging, it's the same thing. This is just plain Android, and you get the swipe keyboard along with the Android keyboard. But if we go to the LG Phoenix, again, it's Android 2.2, but you can see there's a lot of changes here. For example, the dock at the bottom, this is different. This is a customization that LG has added. So you have shortcuts for phone, Twitter, or these you can actually customize. So I've changed this one to Twitter, but that's not what it was originally. But out of the box, it also has messaging in the web browser. And like I said, you can customize those to be, you know, whatever app you want it to be. And then this goes to the app drawer. Now the app drawer also looks different. So if we go here, this is the stock Android app drawer. You can see it has that 3D cube effect, whereas on the Phoenix, you can already tell it looks different. It's actually divided by category. So you have applications, which are the applications that were installed out of the box, and then your downloads. You can, I believe, create new categories. Yeah, you can add a category, and then you can move items between each category. So, you know, in terms of LG's custom UI, I really like it. I think it adds a lot, but it's not too heavy. You know, there's some custom UIs that change virtually every aspect of Android, but this one adds just enough to make it pretty and functional, but, you know, not too much to where it looks cartoonish or too heavy. Some people don't like that. Along with the dock, you also have some toggle buttons. These are very useful. I love having these. It would be nice if, you know, stock Android had them, but it doesn't. So these toggle buttons are for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, airplane mode, and then to put your phone on silent. Along with that, if we go to messaging, this phone also comes with the LG keyboard, because this is obviously an LG device. This keyboard is not great. I tested it out, and definitely not one of my favorites. I would recommend just using the Android keyboard, but you can of course download other keyboards from the Android market and, you know, find whichever one you like. You don't have to use those two. So that's a quick look at the UI. And then one other thing, LG has added a couple of custom widgets. So again, some of these are ones that I've downloaded, and you'll notice that a lot of these are widgets that were available also on the Impulse, because they were just simple Android widgets. But LG has added a memo pad widget, which is very nice. I really like that. The messaging and music widget are a little different. Now, you can get that with any Android device, but LG has kind of tweaked them a little bit so they just look different. And then you also get this weather and clock widget. So if I select that, and we add a city, Dallas, just so you can see what it looks like. Dallas, Texas. Okay, so here's what the widget looks like. It'll show you the weather and the time. So it's a pretty nice looking widget, very useful. And so yeah, that's what LG has added to Android. I personally like LG's custom UI a lot. But if you don't like the custom UI, you can go with the Impulse, which uses stock Android. And then of course, if you don't know, you can download home screen replacements from the Android market, which will virtually change, you know, every aspect of Android. But just out of the box, those are the differences. That's what you get. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, the Impulse is a 4G device. It uses AT&T's HSPA Plus network. Now, there's a lot of discussion over whether or not this is a true 4G network, but the fact is it's being marketed as a 4G device, whereas the Phoenix isn't. It does not use AT&T's HSPA Plus network, and it won't ever be able to do that. It's not a matter of an upgrade. This will never be a 4G the the Impulse a big advantage because, 4G and not 4G. At least you would think so. However, after doing several different speed tests, I am currently in the Dallas area of Texas, and I tested out the Impulse in several different parts of the Dallas area, and then I've also tested out the Phoenix in several different parts of the Dallas area. And we'll go over to the results. Now, if you take a look at the results, consistently the Impulse got better speeds. So you'll see I have some lows here of like 600, 369 kilobits per second for downloads, but for the most part it's 1.2, 1.4, whoops, 1.5, nearly 1.3, 1.6. So consistently, it's about 1.4, 1.3 megabits per second for downloads, which is not good, which is not great for 4G. And it's okay for AT&T's HSPA Plus network. They advertise that you could get up to 14.4 megabits per second, but you're never going to get those speeds. You'll probably never get anywhere near those speeds. Average speeds for AT&T's 4G network should be about 2 to 3. So 1.3, 1.4, that's the lowest that you should get, and that's what I got. Now, if you take a look at the Phoenix, I did get one speed test where it was nearly 1.2 megabits per second. I got one where it was nearly 1 megabit per second. But, for the most part, it was 600, 700, and then, maybe 900 here and there. So, in terms of data speeds, the Impulse was consistently faster than the Phoenix, which is the way it should be because it's a 4G device. That being said, it was not as fast as 4G should be at all, and so, considering those speeds, it doesn't give it a huge advantage over the Phoenix like you think it would.